Welcome welcome all to the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how awesome travel management plans are with Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. And you over there, and Jeep and Jimmy over there, and Toyota Jimmy over there, and of course Honda Jimmy. Honda Jimmy, how are you today?
I've had a Honda.
I know. Well, in that case, Jeep and Jimmy works just fine.
That's true. Well, actually, I never owned the Jeep though.
Oh, okay, that's true.
It was mom and dad's.
So you're a Jeep and Jimmy halfling?
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can see the gears working.
Oh yeah, it was like a concubine.
Right? A concubine? Yeah. I don't think that's the right one.
I don't. It's somebody paid it for me.
Oh, I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go that far.
Sugar daddy?
Yeah, I was a Jeep and sugar daddy.
There you go.
I think most Jeepers are sugar daddies though. But anyways,
yeah,
I did have a Honda. I had a Honda Civic for a good chunk of time when I was commuting a lot. Mm-hmm. And until the transmission blew up. Mm. Yeah, those are actually fun. Until the engine head gasket blew, which I found out later that they're pretty notorious for that. And then I dropped a VTEC motor in it.
Okay.
And then shortly after that, the transmission blew up. Yeah. Or something. I don't know.
Too much for them.
And I sold it. Motor? I sold it to Sarah and Ryan because they were going to fix it up and give it to one of their kids. Mm-hmm. I wonder if they ever fixed it. I wonder if I ever put oil in that thing again, or what. I'm kind of curious what happened.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to have Sarah and Ryan let us know.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have them over and they can make us tacos.
I would ask them. Yeah, we keep trying to corner them into tacos somehow, and it hasn't worked yet. Anyways, how are you today, bud?
I'm good. Things are going well. The week is progressing nicely. Mm-hmm.
How was your weekend?
The weekend?
Let's say the week just started, man.
The week was good. We did a winch install finally. We got around to installing Juan's.
He got all the parts in finally?
Yes, he finally got all the parts in. Yep. And then we did something fun with two other groups of people that we'll talk about a little later.
On Thursday?
Maybe on Thursday. Well, we'll talk about the winch install on Thursday, and then maybe Thursday, maybe next week. I don't know. You'll hear more about what we had going on Saturday.
I got what you're serving up. All right. I see. Okay. Anyways, I was like, I don't know where you're going with this, but I'm just going to let you keep going.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cool, man. So, this weekend was good. We have, today though is a Monday episode.
Yes.
So we get to talk about, some fun things today about travel and public lands.
Yes.
So
and we're not talking about what we did this last weekend.
No, we're not. Even though I really, really want to.
Yeah, because that's Thursday.
I know. I like Thursdays better.
Yeah.
But, so today we're going to have a fun talk for you guys, and hopefully it's going to spur some fun conversations. But what's going to be happening for the rest of the month, Jimmy, with the patron side of stuff?
Well, we're going to send out the gift boxes as soon as all that stuff comes in.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you were implying, or am I missing something? Okay. I was like, I don't know. What are you talking about? But we do want to always say thank you to our patrons. Mm-hmm. We really appreciate your support. The gift box tier is officially closed, like we said last week, and since Halloween. And so once we get the products in for this gift box, the one that's supposed to be October's, we'll send those out. And and then if you want to get into the gift box tier, now you're going to have to wait till April.
Yep. And then we also, so that's the gift boxes we have coming up as well for the month of November, our giveaway, which is the Factor 55 Flat Link. It's the limited edition kind of army green color, which is
OD green.
OD green?
I don't know. That's what I'm calling it.
Oh, that works.
It's other P/N 00015-12 OD green.
OD green. There you go. Nice.
Look at that. I also know what I'm talking about.
That's funny. Cool. So OD green flat link for everybody out there, about $140, $150 value right around there. Super cool piece of item. I kind of wish I had it. I could
some recovery gear that everybody could use. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Factor 55 I don't know terribly much about the company. I think they just got bought. Did they just get bought?
Warren owns them.
Yes. But they talk about, they didn't really invent it, but they talk a lot about closed system recovery.
Yes.
And they are pretty much the one of the people that brought that to the forefront of how people should be doing their recoveries. And this falls right in line with that closed system recovery. So,
yep. I want to say the FlatLink was one of their first products.
I think it was.
Yeah, for closed system stuff. So yeah, really cool, kind of revolutionary. Ever since they came out with it, a lot of other companies have been making them now. So the OG in the OD green.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's see what else. We had a correction. I got corrected. The correction got corrected.
Yeah, you were corrected a few times.
I was corrected a lot of times on this one, apparently. So this goes to the wire gauge thing. So originally when we were talking about the dual battery setups back in episode 238, I was calling it 2/0 wiring or 1/0 wiring. And then a listener reached out and corrected that, and it was in an email. So it was everything was spelled out right. There was no phonetics, but he spelled it out as it's pronounced 2 out is what he said, and it's spelled OUGHT, but pronounced OUT. And I took his word for it, and because drought sounds like drought, I assumed that he was correct. And drought is spelled DROUGHT. So I assumed that the out was out. And then after we did that correction on, I don't know, a couple episodes ago, a lot of people have reached back out saying I'm stupid, and it's that's not how you say it.
Yeah, I think it was 241, and so we had another. What is he? Is he an electrical engineer?
I think he is one. Well, one of them is, yeah.
Yeah, and the other one's a firefighter. Were there others?
There was at least one or two more.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I only saw the two.
Yeah. So there was those two that you saw, but it's pronounced ought, apparently. Ought. OUGHT is pronounced.
It's still OUGHT. I thought I thought somebody else wrote it was AUGHT.
Oh. I don't know. I saw OU.
Maybe it was OU and they typed it should be pronounced like AU.
Maybe. I don't know.
But
anyways, it's pronounced ought. So if you're looking for gauged wire that is thicker than 0 gauge, you're looking for 1/0 or 2/0 wire.
Got it.
So
good to know.
Yeah. And I believe we have a voicemail
explaining this.
I think so.
Is it from?
It's from the Land Rover guy.
Oh, geez.
So we're going to play it. I'm just giving everybody a warning, a heads up. He likes to get a little crazy, and we call him Donnie. Oh God, he called twice.
Oh man.
So let's see what goes on. You ready for this?
No.
Too bad. Here we go.
Hey, it's your favorite Land Rover guy again.
No, it's not.
No.
I just wanted to say it's not all hate mail. Since Jason's yet to come off of any Blantons, you guys might be moving into the #1 podcasting spot here in the playlist. Keep up the good work, gentlemen.
Okay, so
wow,
that's kind of nice. We got
I like
some praise.
that. Yeah. Can we? So his next one, can you just repeat that first one?
For the next one, yeah. He called back again. He recorded the exact same thing. I don't know.
Shocking. Weird. Yeah. Google must have messed up.
Yeah. So here is the second one.
He's sandwiching.
It's not out. It's ought. 2/0 gauge cable would be 2/0 cable. You got to think back to your Jethro Bodine days. He knew his oughts. Ought and ought is ought. Ought and 1 is 1. Yeah, like that.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
Okay. We're going to get another voicemail now explaining that reference.
Yeah. And who did he even reference?
Jethro Bodine.
Yeah, but what? I don't get how Jethro would say something like that.
I have no clue either.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I thought he was going to be sandwiching his, that thing you do for when you try to lessen the blow of negativity.
Oh yeah,
because you give them compliment up front, you give them the negative, thing that they need to improve or work on, and then you give them a small compliment at the end. I thought that was coming.
There's no compliment.
No, there was no compliment at the end.
At the end, yeah. I like the one at the beginning, though. That was nice. Thanks, Don.
Yeah. Because we drink, we're becoming number one.
Yeah.
That's what I took from that one.
That's what I took too. Yeah. Because we're the only podcast drinking anymore, apparently.
Yeah. It's true. I like the way you referenced it. So it was like, Chris doesn't wheel, but he drinks the whiskey and the wine. Where Jason's not drinking, but he wheels. Yeah. So if you combine the two of them, they're still wheeling wine and whiskey.
Yeah, right.
So
our powers combined, we are Captain Planet.
Yes.
So cool, man. That was the voicemails and the updates for today. Was it all good? Did you like it? Did you have fun?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
All right, let's close this baby up and go home.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Now sit on back. We got a fun topic for you guys. So sit back, relax. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about this and spur up some conversations cross country about public lands and how vehicles are used on public land. So,
but before we do, we need to just do a quick little shout out for the Gear Wrench giveaway thing that's going on with King of the Hammers.
Oh yeah.
So make sure that you guys we still haven't figured out what we're doing on our end for you guys yet, but you guys shouldn't wait for us. You should go and enter. Mm-hmm. I don't know when it ends.
It ends, I want to say it's like leading up to King of the Hammers, like halfway through January.
Really? That long?
I think so. I'd have to double check, but
okay. We'll figure it out before the next episode. But yeah, so go check out the link in the show description. Go over to Home Depot. Go buy some Gear Wrench tools. Go buy a Monster Energy drink, and then send in your receipt to Gear Wrench and send in your receipt, a picture of your receipt. Both of them are a picture of your receipt to Gear Wrench, and send in a picture of your receipt to us, and that enters you. It's just that simple.
That simple. Anybody can do it. Cool. So go ahead and do that. Grab your favorite Monster Energy drink, get that receipt, and we'll be right on back with today's campfire discussion. Welcome back, ladies and germs, to today's campfire discussion. So during the break there, our good buddy, Mr. Murphy, sent us an email real quick, and he said that the promotion for the Gear Wrench giveaway, the KOH trip, ends December 31st.
So the end of the year.
You have to be entered, and before then, have all 6 of your entries done by then.
Well, you have plenty of opportunities to buy Christmas presents by then.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can buy Christmas presents for each of your buddies, and then you can win the trip.
Yes.
Or you can tell your spouse to buy you tools, and then
you could win the trip.
You could win the trip. Yeah.
Or you can buy me tools, and you can win the trip.
That would work. Or just buy yourself tools, and I can win a trip.
I'm down for
I think there's
any
lots of ways. Yeah. There's lots of ways to do this here.
I would be happy with any kind of combo of those.
Right. So cool, man. Good stuff. Cool things that Gear Wrench is doing, stepping up with the off-roading communities here. So today's talk is very much going to involve the off-roading communities. So this came up, we talked a little bit about it on a previous episode. We had an email come in from a listener and with a problem. What was that problem, Jimmy?
Somebody was doing illegal dumping on
public
land. Yeah. And it was, it happened to be a bunch of tires. So a whole bunch of tires were being illegally dumped on this trail, right? Just right off the road, right next to this trail.
Pretty much at the trailhead.
At the trailhead. Yeah. And then for the most part, within 24 hours, the governing agency of that public land was starting to put up a gate to block the trail off.
Yeah, which is a big bummer, right? And so the listener wrote in kind of asking if there's anything they can do. What are some strategies that can be done to help ensure that motorized vehicular recreation is maintained with that governing agency on that trail, right? And so, I outlined a pretty lengthy response of different strategies and things that we use here in California to help keep our trails maintained, because really that's the big point of doing this. What are different strategies to keep trails open, best ways to keep them maintained.
Yep.
And hold people accountable for maintenance and making sure that they stay up to par. And it started making me think about one of the big issues of public lands.
And what is that?
And that comes down to the definition of motorized access or motorized recreation.
Okay.
And so I was started to talk about it with and kind of outlining that a lot of land managers don't necessarily, I don't think that motorized recreation is really a priority when it comes to management plans for public lands. And so we're going to go through and explain how all this works, right? So, but my thought is that I don't think vehicle recreation is explicitly outlined in a lot of management plans. I think that motorized access is probably outlined, but is that really different from motorized recreation? And what is the difference? And is there a difference if there is?
Okay.
And should there be a definitional difference between the two in order to achieve a more secure future for off-roading? And so we started talking about this around the campfire when we were up at the Rubicon. You know, what is the difference between all of this, and why does it matter? Why does it even matter? And so I wanted to kind of go through this and kind of talk and explain a little bit of how public lands work, how they function, so that as we kind of understand how they work and function, we can start trying to find ways to secure our off-road recreation abilities into the future.
Got it. Okay. So do you have the definitions in front of you?
Kind of. So essentially what it is anytime that there's a chunk of land set aside for anything, there's a specific purpose it is set aside for. And that's called a management plan. And it's up to the land manager to manage that land and maintain it according to the management plan, what's written and explicitly defined in this management plan.
Okay.
So if you look at a national forest, or if you look at BLM land or a state park or a federal park, whatever, a national park, a national monument, there's all these different designations, wild and scenic areas. And there's all these different designations for what it means for this land to be designated as something, and it's defined by that management plan. Okay. So anytime you're looking at a trail system, there's a big issue of Gemini bridges, right, in Moab.
Sure. Yes.
And they're looking at, upwards of 10,000 miles worth of OHV routes, and looking to see, do they really need that many miles? Are people actually using those for access? Are they using them for recreation? What are those routes being used for? And then do they really need to be there? How many of them are being used sustainably? And, if the answers to any of those are, sway to one way or the other, then we will lose those routes to the off-roading community. Mm-hmm. So there's two different sides fighting it, and they're trying to fight to shut down that, saying that motorized access should not be necessarily a thing, that there's already too many motors, too much motorized access in places. And so in my opinion, I think that it comes down to whether you're defining the usage of the land as motorized access versus motorized recreation. And what that comes then down into is the travel management plans.
Okay. So what was the first set of plans? It's
just management plan.
Okay.
So the management plan for that chunk of land.
Right. And then there's a travel management plan. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the travel management plan helps to manage all the travel on that land, whether it's hiking, horseback riding, single track riding, OHV usage, whatever it is, snowmobile over snow usage. And the travel management plan kind of puts all these different forms of traveling together so that, and they do it in a way so that the land gets maintained sustainably, so that it doesn't get overused, and there's maintenance plans in place to make sure that if something does start getting overused, that they can correct it, so that that land can continue to be used into the future indefinitely, right? So, being able to say that dirty word, the sustainable word, in the off-roading community is sometimes viewed as, this is a bad word. It's a dirty thing to talk about sometimes.
And why is that? Do you feel that it's because what we do is not sustainable? Or do you think
I think that it has been used too much by quote unquote the other side.
Okay. As
their good intentions, which is then used to shut down what we're doing.
It's used against us.
Okay. But I think that there are absolutely ways to have motorized recreation be sustainable.
Sure.
And I don't think that it's out of the realm of reason to say that we should be maintaining our recreation habits and hobbies so that it can be sustainable, so that our kids and grandkids can also enjoy those hobbies.
Yeah.
I don't think that's out of the realm of reason.
Yeah. So we should be able to continue to do motor vehicle activities at a responsible level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can do that, the land should still be able to be sustained.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it comes down to like one of the arguments and the great examples of that is unfortunately Little Sluice.
Mm-hmm.
It got to a point where it was drawing such big crowds and people were not picking up after themselves, and it became a health hazard as well as an injury hazard, as well as a waste of emergency resources at times, that it had to be blown up in order to make the Rubicon sustainable so that we can continue having the trail.
Correct. And
so I don't think, I know that you've kind of used the argument a bunch of times when people complain about the Little Sluice getting blown up, would you rather Little Sluice get blown up, or would you rather us lose access to the trail and not be able to recreate out there at all anymore?
Right.
Which one would you rather have?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's absolutely ways to continue having our hobby, this off-road thing. I don't think that off-roading should be viewed as unsustainable or as a completely destructive hobby. I think there's absolutely ways. I think that 90% of the people out there recreate using vehicles just fine in a very sustainable fashion.
Right. I agree with you. So what comes next after the travel management part?
So the travel management plan then comes down to designated routes, right? In order to manage a system of lands, a system of roadways and routes within a chunk of land, you have to know what those routes are. So there has to be an inventory of routes with the land manager.
An inventory meaning like they're mapped out. They know where they go. They know what they actually have, like GPS coordinates of that trail.
Yes. The trail is surveyed. Mm-hmm. The trail is surveyed and it's been added and has an actual trail designation. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of the Forest Service roads in California are like 6 and 109 or whatever.
Exactly.
That's Wentworth Springs Road, whatever it is. And so it has to be inventoried, right? In order to have a route in the travel management plan and be covered legally by the travel management plan, it has to be inventoried by the land manager. So that's what they're doing in Moab right now at Gemini Bridges area, is they are inventorying all of the OHV routes to figure out what's actually there and then compare it to what their current or previous inventory said. So have new routes been created that haven't been added to the inventory yet? And if so, should they stay there, or do they need to take some action to delete that route so people are not using it?
Yeah. Or I guess the next sort of escalated question from that is, who's going to monitor the routes, if new routes that are getting created, because if new routes are getting created, that's probably, goes against a bunch of rules in the rule book. right?
Yeah.
And how do we regulate that?
It either comes down to self-regulation,
Yeah.
or the land managers stepping in and forcibly regulating.
Sure.
And unfortunately, it's been more of the latter, where land managers come in and forcibly regulate. And instead of educating people and putting up educational resources about stuff, they tend to forcibly regulate. And if that doesn't work, then they start punishing and taking away other stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that education on a lot of these aspects needs to be taught. And taught more.
Absolutely.
Right? Because there's still people that choose to go off trail or choose to drive over bushes or choose to, just do destructive things to trails, and or now creating new bypasses or new trails and new places to go, which sounds fun, sounds cool, like, oh, I wheeled over that mountain, but if there was nothing, what we need to do is we actually need to stay on the trail. We need to stay on the route. We can't diverge from these things, especially because we're at such a critical point in the future of our hobby, our recreation, that almost doing any of these things is just catastrophic to trying to stay on the positive side of things. Yeah.
What I want to kind of dive into a little bit more, though, is why. Why do we need to stay on designated routes? Because there's a lot of really good reasons why, rather than just because the land managers want us to.
Sure.
So, let's talk a little bit about ecology, I guess. And I'm not an ecology expert. I don't think you are either.
No.
But I know enough of how we impact how our ecological impacts can impact futures of that ecological system. And so what happens if one vehicle, just one, and that's all that ever does it, goes and drives over a bush somewhere on a hillside? They decide, I want to see if I can climb that hill. And they go climb up that hill. One vehicle does it. Are they really doing any permanent damage?
Well, to the bush, yeah, probably.
I would venture to say probably not.
Okay.
Depending on the size of the bush, I guess. And if they're like sitting there and, spinning out their tires on top of the bush. But if one vehicle goes over that one bush up the hillside, probably not going to do too much damage. Nature is pretty resilient. The problem, though, is when one person does it, now all of a sudden you can see a track there. And it's now other people think, oh, there's a track here. Once 100 people do it, 200, 300, 400 people do it, then it becomes irreparable damage.
Correct.
And whenever that happens, then we see a lot of problems with sediment getting into water systems, which is the big major concern here in California. Or we see bushes and floral and fauna disappearing from hillsides because people are trying to do hill climbs on them. And when those disappear, there's no more root systems to hold the hillsides together, which then creates mudslides and landslides. And so when that happens, then stuff moves around and all of a sudden we don't have any trails.
Correct.
So there's one person going off trail, not that big of a deal. But the problem is, once one person does it, multiple other people are going to do that. And when a lot of people do it, the ground and dirt starts compacting, and then flora and fauna cannot grow there anymore. Root systems can't penetrate compacted dirt very well. So then you start losing not just the bushes that are there, but then nothing will ever grow there. It's going to take a very, very long time for anything to grow back there. So having irreparable destruction is something that we can absolutely avoid in our hobby. We can go out and recreate, do off-roading. We can do overlanding. We can do rock crawling. We can do mudding. I mean, as long as we have designated areas to do them in, it's absolutely no problem. We can go out and enjoy ourselves, have fun with our vehicles without doing irreparable damage to our environments, so that that environment is there for future generations to also come out and enjoy.
Right. Understood. The first thing that came to my mind when you were sort of talking about this, and I'm pretty sure it's in Moab, which is that it has that like weird black raised dirt that grows on the ground.
Oh yeah.
It's like this, it's like a moss or something that fungus that grows, like raises the dirt higher. I can't remember the name of it, but it takes like centuries for it to grow. Like it grows every 10 years, it grows like a millimeter or something like that. And so you see these ones that are like 1 inch tall and, you know, an inch tall. And those things have been growing for years, like, you know, 50, 75, 100 years to do that. And, you know, and in Moab, they have a whole thing about don't walk off trails because you're going to walk on these things. You're not really going to notice it. You know, it looks like dirt. It looks like when frozen dirt, right?
It does. It almost looks
dirt
like
freezes. It can, you know, how there's water under the dirt, it kind of raises it up, right? And if you're not paying attention, you don't know what it is. You just walk across it and then you just killed like 100, you know, or destroyed 100 years of growth on that plant. That is called cryptobiotic soil crust. Thank you. Yes. Thanks, B. Murphy. Yeah. So you know, so if somebody drives off trail, you know, you're not going to kill a bush, but there's stuff there that is still that you're doing. That
you can kill.
Absolute harm to, especially in Moab, in that area. Like the Sierra Nevadas doesn't really have that specific thing, but there's things out there like, you know,
very true,
mosses and grasses. Like you know, like you were saying, one person driving over the grass isn't going to be that big a deal, but you know, you get 10, 20, 30 people driving over that grass. Now you got ruts in the grass and you got the grass killed, you know, and so no, I agree. And I think there's just some instances of, you know, that, you shouldn't ever go off trail.
That is very true. That's a very great point. Cryptobiotic cryptobiotic soil crust, it says here, can take hundreds of years to form a thin layer, usually less than 8 centimeters thick. There's definitely, you know, and granted, there's people out there that would be like, why do I give a shit? It's not going to impact me. I don't care what a cryptobiotic crust does.
I don't even know what it does. I just know that you got to pay attention to it.
I
don't know if there's even like, does something even eat it? I have no idea. Is it just this thing that grows and we've got to watch out for it? Then I'll let you guys argue if that's a benefit or not, you know, but but the fact that Moab is concerned about people driving off trail or even hiking off trail because they don't want these destroyed. You know, it's just one of those things that's like, just pay attention to what you're doing.
I agree. Pay attention to what you're doing.
But so to some extent, you have to be informed about that one.
Exactly.
There's no way you would understand. You're like, this is weird. This is sort of like elevated, soft and squishy dirt right here. You know, and you're like tamping it down. You know, like if you didn't know like what it was.
Jumping on it like bubble wrap.
The only thing I can, think of what it feels like is frozen dirt. You know, like I see it and I look at it and I go like, it's elevated. And I've seen that with sort of frozen dirt and you can walk across it, you know, so I can imagine that's what it's sort of like, but and I can imagine a kid jumping on it.
Totally.
Because they haven't been informed. They don't know.
Or just walking through because you need to go take a pee away from the rig or something. Like, so there's things out there where, you know, and for the most part, I think that a super majority of people that are doing off-road recreation do stay on trails.
Yes.
And I think that they do care for the trails and care that they are using trails sustainably, so that they're picking up more trash than they bring in, than they brought in. Like they're leaving with more trash than they brought in, kind of thing. That kind of mentality, right? I would say that a lot of us do that. But unfortunately, in every group, there's going to be bad apples.
Yes, absolutely.
So my question is, one of my questions is off-roading a problem? Or are people the problem? Is it a people problem? Is it an off-roading problem or is it a people problem? Because I know that when all the forests here in California shut down to shut down all the designated campgrounds during COVID, but they left dispersed camping open. You and I said it, I believe, on one of the podcasts. We were like, that's a big mistake. There's going to be tons of trash everywhere. and illegal fires everywhere. And sure as hell, what happened?
There's a bunch of trash everywhere and a bunch of forests caught on fire.
Yeah. Yep. Because people were going out dispersed camping and not being responsible. And it wasn't off-roaders. It was hikers, campers. It was anybody that wanted to go out and use lands for recreational purposes.
Yeah. I think it wasn't just off-roaders.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
so it just goes to show that the problem is not really off-roading. The problem is a people problem. So how do you fix that? I think, education goes a long way to fixing it. But in the meantime, how do we secure our future knowing that the problems we're facing are more of people problems in general? Like we've got quote unquote, the environmentalists, or we have, Sierra Club that loves to go out hiking, that thinks any motor out in nature is the devil. How do we find ways to work with people like that want their recreation, but don't want us to have our recreation?
Yeah, I don't have an answer. I think I would guess is that, you just need to find ways to work together or do it in different locations to some extent. But I also feel that, it's like, why should, one group get an area that another group doesn't have access to? It's that same old question, like why do horses have to go on bike trails?
Yeah, right. You have to pick up your dog shit. Why don't you make all the horses pick up theirs? And if they can't, then they shouldn't be allowed to cross-contaminate other recreational trails.
Yeah. But, it's like so I'm thinking about Folsom Lake.
Okay.
Which is, out by a little lake out by us that has horse trails, bike trails, hiking trails, and it has motorized vehicle little paths. Right. And they don't like you to drive off of the concrete, but they're not upset at you for driving on these paths, right? They don't want you driving off the path.
Yeah.
But they're not, they prefer, and I think when the lake is so low, like it's like one of those things that's like, if people want to get to the water, you've got to drive off the concrete.
Yeah,
right?
You're not going to walk out there that far.
And I know that I've talked to cops out there, the lifeguards, the rangers and stuff out in that way. And just like, stay on the paths, right? Yeah. That's all they ever teach. But there's bicyclists on those paths. There's people walking on the path. There's horses on the path, There's times when I've been putting along in Bobcat and I come upon horses coming at me, and, there's a rule that on the little plastic pylons that shows who yields to who.
Okay. Yeah.
It's, let me see if I can get it right. And I don't even know if horse or cars are on that thing, but it's usually hikers, bikers, and horses. And it's this little triangle. And everybody yields to the horse.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think it's bicyclists yield to hikers.
Oh, interesting.
And it's mainly because of speed and control.
Yeah.
And so, and the horses are an animal.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're unpredictable to some extent.
To some extent.
Right.
More unpredictable than a bicycle is.
Right. And so I think that, so if you follow those guidelines and you're out on the trail, like don't drive past the horses. When I see the horses, I pull over and I turn my engine off.
Yeah.
Right. Cause it's like, what can I do to put the rider at the least amount of stress? Right. And usually they'll pull up and say, oh, thanks a lot. And then they'll walk on by and I'll start my engine up and drive on, and I don't full throttle it and rip out in front of them,
Yeah.
So it's, to some extent, I think it's being polite. I guess is sort of where I'm going with this. And considerate.
Considering the position that the other person is in. Because I think there's a lot of people out there in that given situation that would be like, I don't give a fuck what the horse rider is doing.
The horse rider should be, they should be okay with being out here with my truck.
Exactly.
Right. And I should be able to drive my truck and they should be able to ride their horse. And if their horse can't handle it, then the horse shouldn't be out here.
Exactly. And I think that's a very common mentality that a lot of people would have, which I sympathize with, but I don't empathize with it. I think that's a good way of putting it.
I think that is a good way to put it.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in, if you live in a society and you're choosing to live in a society, that means you're choosing to live around other people. That means you have to deal with people on a day-to-day basis. And there's a lot of benefits to having people around you. Whether it comes to career benefits, family benefits, whatever it is. There's a lot of drawbacks as well to having people around you. But I think the benefits, to me at least, way far outweigh the drawbacks. There's other people out there that would say, fuck you, you're wrong. I'm living in Nome, Alaska, and I prefer it up here so much better. Yeah. Like, cool, that's great. You're in the perfect spot if you don't want to be around people then. And so if you choose to go and visit a place like Folsom Lake that has a lot of people around, then you are choosing to be around other people. You need to be considerate of other people. And so I think that's a great point that you bring up. And that's, I think, one thing that kind of sets the stage for these two different personalities, right? Types that we have. So what happens when you get into situations like that where you've got people who are trying to recreate? So let's take side-by-sides and 4x4s as an example. Let's take
side-by-sides and horses.
There's a good one. Okay, so two extremes. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's the reason I say it.
Yeah.
Is because now you have a horse walking up the trail and you have a side-by-side going 40 miles an hour down the trail.
Yeah, absolutely. So two great extremes, right? You've got two very, very different recreational uses with very bad consequences if things go wrong. Yeah. And when those two meet on the same trail. Mm-hmm. So, but they're both on the same trail legally, because the travel management plans of that management land, the management plan of that area, says that this is a route that is used for access in this area. So here's my question and kind of one of the epiphanies I came to while I was writing the response to this guy's email. And this is something I don't know for sure. I tried to do a little bit of more research around this now. And I think talking to Amy Granite from Corva would be a great resource to get this question answered. But
I was wondering how you were going to tie this all back
together. Exactly.
All right, here we go.
Is there a difference between access, travel management plans and access routes, and recreational routes in those management plans?
I have no idea.
And if not, I think there absolutely needs to be.
There absolutely needs to be.
And we need, and maybe that's what the designation OHV stands for. But anytime I've heard of people managing routes, anytime land managers talk about managing vehicular routes in a management area, I always hear it referenced as access, vehicular access.
Right.
Rather than vehicular recreation.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking there is a big, in my mind, there's a big difference between vehicular access and vehicular recreation.
Yeah. So what is it in your mind? What is the difference? What distinguishes the two?
I think that access is you're using some route to get to a location to where you start your recreation from.
Okay. I like that.
And so Dark Lake, the trailhead to Dark Lake and the Desolation Wilderness area is up next to the trailhead for Barrett Lake.
Okay.
There's a big parking area right there, just a quarter mile down the road or something, that hikers can go and use as an access route to get to their hiking trailhead. And vehicular recreationers going up to Barrett Lake can use that same parking lot to get access to go recreate on Barrett Lake. However, I don't know if there's an actual designation between vehicular recreational trails and hiking recreational trails or horseback recreational trails. And I'm pretty sure there's designations for horseback versus hiking.
Yes.
So is there differences between vehicular recreation and vehicular access?
I highly doubt it.
I don't think there is either.
Because you were making me think like, okay, well, let's talk about Joe Schmo that's taking his truck and boat down to a lake on a dirt road so he can go fishing, right?
Yeah.
So he has vehicular access to get his boat down to that lake, but he's not vehicular recreating.
Nope. No.
He's using the trail, the path, the dirt, the fire road, the route, to go fishing, which is his recreation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Whereas if you go to Barrett Lake Trail or if you go off-roading,
Mm-hmm.
you're using it as, vehicular recreation. So I think the cross comes to, do they need to be different or can they be combined?
So that is a great question, right? And so I think that they need to be different. And here's a couple of the reasons why. Because if you look at management plans, the land managers are legally responsible and accountable for managing land according to what is written in that management plan. If vehicular recreation is not explicitly listed as one of the recreational opportunities or one of the uses for that land, but vehicular access is listed as explicitly as a usage for that land, then that means the routes that they have to be kept and opened and maintained for vehicular access. But if something comes up and there's an issue with one of the vehicular recreational routes that's quote unquote used for vehicular recreation, but maybe not designated as specifically as recreation because it's not listed in the management plan, are they legally responsible to keep that open and maintained for the public? Or can they just put up a gate and shut everybody out because somebody dumps a bunch of tires at the trailhead?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
So right? I don't have an answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I think they need to be defined separately, but a road could be both.
I would agree to that.
Or a route could be both.
I think it could be. And I think that there would definitely need to be separate routes for them as well. But I think a route definitely could be both.
Let's take, and you're going to remember the name. I don't remember the name. So going into Slick Rock.
Okay. Spicer Road.
Spicer
Meadow
So there's
Road.
you turn off of a paved road onto a dirt graded road.
Yep.
Right. To lead you to Slick Rock Trail to head up to the Blue Lakes, right?
It goes up to Lake Alpine.
Lake Alpine.
Yep.
Sorry, it's wrong. Yeah. Lake Alpine. Wrong trail. So Spicer Road, the graded dirt road, would be a combined usage road.
Yeah.
For vehicle recreation and public vehicle access or whatever.
Yep. And so,
until you get to the Slick Rock Trail, then it'd be like, this is no longer designated as a public vehicle access road.
Yeah.
It's
now a recreational
vehicle recreational road that you're allowed to have horses on or hiking or biking, but no motorcycles. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, however they designate it.
Exactly. So my question, my thought, I guess, would be if a management plan does not explicitly define those two things as two separate ideas, then we need to try and make it that way. So if we can find ways to pull up management plans, which should be public knowledge, public information, and look through them and see if that land is being designated for vehicular recreation. If that is not explicitly listed in the management plans, and we don't really have a ground to say, no, we need more routes open for vehicular recreation because we have more and more people coming into this. If we have more and more people coming into this and we're not expanding the amount of routes, then the routes we do have are not going to get used sustainably. And so if we don't have that clearly defined, then we can't even begin to argue, right?
No, I agree.
But if we do have it clearly defined, that now makes it, gives us legal precedence to start arguing and getting routes opened or keep routes open to vehicular recreation.
Okay.
So, that was kind of my epiphany, I guess.
Okay. So I have two questions.
Okay.
Well, I have two main questions that probably have side questions. What did you guys actually talk about around the campfire?
The difference between vehicular recreation, vehicular access.
Okay.
And that was a big chunk of it I think that a lot of land managers and a lot of people in general don't look at vehicles as something that you can go and recreate in. Like that is the purpose of your recreation.
Yeah.
Is with the vehicle.
Yeah. I think most people see it as a use of transportation to get to your recreation.
Exactly. And so we need to do some branding for vehicular recreation, right? Where we need to be able to show and prove that vehicles can be the main purpose of recreation, not just a tool to get to your recreation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if we can start doing more of that and proving more of that and get legal precedents to show that vehicles are recreation, that would help a shit ton of things. I know that SEMA is taking a big fight for, hot rodders and people that want to do a ton of engine stuff to their vehicles as recreation, because it's fun working on our vehicles and it's fun to build a vehicle and then put it on a dyno and have it pull 1,000 horsepower to the rear wheels. Like that's badass.
Right.
But it's not legally protected because I don't think it's looked at as a form of recreation.
Sure.
And if other forms of recreation are legally protected, why can't ours be?
Yeah. I think that's a great point. One of the things I wanted to say was that, even though it's an OHV park, I think that, Hollister has done a really good job at this. To some extent, because in a way what they've done, and I'm not saying that this is the best thing, I'm just saying that this seems to work well for Hollister, is there's 2 different areas at Hollister.
Yeah.
And Prairie City kind of has the same, right? There's the off-road 4x4, section. Okay. And then there's the motorcycle section, right? Yeah. Motorcycles can go into the off-road section, but off-roaders can't go into the motorcycle section.
Okay.
Also, one thing that Hollister does is really good is their routes are one direction.
Oh, okay. Right? That makes a lot of sense for like side-by-side users.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you have 2 people going 60 miles an hour around a corner, both trying to use a berm, it's not going to end well.
No.
So having a one direction path, you can let yourself go a little bit more because nobody's going to be coming at you, or nobody should be coming at you.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's, I like the fact that they have their paths one direction, because I know there's a lot of places that don't, and they're probably having more injuries to some extent.
And when you get a lot of injuries, it's now viewed as not sustainable, right? So, that definition of what's sustainable and then best practices to how to make things sustainable. I think it's such a new concept to the off-roading community, but I think that it's something that is important for us to be looking at and considering.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that separating everything is the answer.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it works. It's a potential solution to some extent. I do think that there is possible, this trail could only be for, 4x4 usage. Nothing else can go on it. But then at the end of the trail, it hits an all access road that everybody can use.
Yeah.
It's like the green circle on the snowboarding or mountain ranch is, the one that everybody goes on, but only the experts are going on the black diamonds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some advantages and disadvantages to having specific direction and specific access, but it's, to some extent, it makes things a little bit easier. And I'm not but I do think that, it's like Slick Rock Trail, like we were sort of talking about earlier, or the Rubicon, there's motorcycles on that thing all the time.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, I think it's the only crazy people out there on motorcycles. Because I'm like, who would want to ride that on a motorcycle? That's silly.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to drive. It's hard to walk.
Yeah.
So it's and they're going faster than the 4x4s.
Yeah.
So, it's as soon as your motorcycle comes behind you, you just kind of pull over for a minute and they blast kind of by you, and then you don't see them ever again.
Yeah.
But, and there's been horses out on the Rubicon. So I think it's, it's a matter of respecting, I think, is what it comes down to for me, and having an understanding of what's happening around you. My second question is, let's do full circle here. So how did you what did you write into the response email to our patron that wrote us in regards to the illegal dumping?
Yeah, I wrote a bunch of different kind of options and things that we see working here in California. One is, and probably the most important one, is off-roaders need to build good, lasting relationships with the land managers and show that we are willing to help them maintain our trails so that they don't necessarily have to worry about it as much. If we can make their jobs easier, because if they are legally required to maintain trails, and if a trail doesn't get maintained, then they legally have to shut it down due to lawsuits. Cue the 42 trail shutdown here in Northern California. So if we can show that we can work with the land managers, help them make their jobs easier, and show that we are willing to be educated on the proper ways to kind of like what the referee has turned into for me. What are they really looking for in order to do it properly, and then help them do it? Make it happen kind of thing. Be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. And so there was a few options for that. And one of them came down to adopting trails. I was listening to Between Two Jeeps. It's a podcast that I actually got to do an interview with Morflate on, but I was listening to them talk about there's a length of trails, I want to say in the Appalachians, that's like 1,400 miles that's getting threatened to be shut down, or like a big chunk of it, like 300, 400 miles of it is getting threatened to be shut down because it's not being maintained. And the land managers are not maintaining it. And so other people come in and they say, oh, this trail right here is not being maintained properly up to the correct standards. So they sue the land managers, which then they get court-ordered shutdowns of those trail systems until they're maintained, brought back up to maintenance standards.
Oh, lovely.
So they're talking about, a bunch of off-roading clubs are starting to go and adopt sections of that trail in order to maintain it and help the Forest Service bring it back up to maintenance standards. I was like, that's great. That's exactly what kind of has turned into the off-roading trails here in Northern California. The Adopt a Trail thing. The other thing to remember about all of this is that the land managers, typically they want to see people recreating. They want to see people out there. They don't want to shut stuff down. Most of the time, I would say 90% or more of the time, if a trail or something gets shut down, it's because somebody else came in and sued the land manager, and the land manager got court ordered to shut the trails down. So that's the other thing to keep in remembrance, is that the more that we can have good relationships with them and not get pissed at the land managers when a trail shuts down, it kind of is their fault in a way, because they're supposed to be making sure that it gets maintained properly. So if it doesn't get maintained properly and it gets shut down, it wasn't their decision to shut it down most of the time. It's usually a court-ordered decision. And so being able to maintain those working relationships with those land managers and help them and show them that we can help them maintain, make their lives easier, help us help you kind of thing, goes a really, really, really long ways to keep our recreation opportunities open for us.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then the other thing from there was just, thinking, that's also when I started thinking and touching on, is there a difference between vehicular access and vehicular recreation?
Right.
And what's clear, what is defined in your area's management plan? Is vehicular recreation even defined at all? If not, then you have no legal precedence or responsibility for the land managers to keep an OHV route open for you.
Nope.
So, it was an interesting conversation that sparked a couple of other interesting conversations that I thought would be fun to kind of talk about and dive into. And I don't know if there is an answer. I think that people are really, really smart, and this is a relatively new problem in the terms of societal recreating for societies. So I don't think that any of the solutions we've come up with now are going to be like the foolproof answers to the problems. But I think that people are really smart. And I think as we get more and more people into our hobby, there's going to come up with more and more ideas to get more routes open, more vehicular recreation open to us. We just need the conversation started and get those ideas flowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is, I was going to look it up, but let me start with this. Cruising to Camp, episode number 4 with like Circle L Overland or something.
Okay.
And I don't know what his profession is, the guy that Lee interviewed, but it's something in like Forest Service or something like that. They covered actually a lot of these topics as well.
Oh,
so if this is something that sparks your interest and got you, some fire under your rear end, and you want to try to figure more of it out or learn more about it, go check out Cruising to Camp's episode number 4. Also, cool. I wanted to say, and this is what I didn't look our number up, but this sounds like almost the same exact conversation as when we were talking about GPS tagging locations.
Oh, geotagging
stuff, right? And it's not the fact that people are geotagging. It's just the fact that people aren't educated on what to do when they're going to these locations.
These places,
It's a similar scenario here. It's like people aren't educated on how to what to properly do on trails. They're just doing whatever they want. And so is it the fact that we're geotagging? Is it the fact that trails are open, or is it the fact that there's just bad apples out there willing to ruin things?
Yeah. It's a people problem. It's not the type of recreation. It's the people issue.
Yes.
And I think that our specific type of recreation, vehicle recreation, has enough level-headed people out there that are willing to talk and talk things out and have the ideas come up that we can do some good stuff. And we don't have to have the destructive branding that we have right now.
Yeah.
So,
one of the things they talked about in Cruising to Camp episode 4 was going to camp with like 15 people, right? Like, where are you going to find a camp out in the middle of nowhere that will fit 15 rigs?
Yeah.
Right. And so now you have people driving over bushes and going places, so they can fit all 15 rigs near each other. Right. Whereas if you split into 3 groups of 5, it would be really easy for you guys to find places to camp and that aren't really that far apart.
Yeah.
And are easy to walk. And maybe you guys all hang out at one camp and have the party and have the fire and relax and chill. And then you leave and go back to your camp to go to bed.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you're doing more damage to try to get all 15 of those rigs together.
Yeah.
Compared to just separating yourself into 5 or 3 small groups of 5.
Yeah. And the big thing to remember also is that closure is not going to fix any problems. Yeah. Because it's a people problem, not a recreation problem. If you close something, the people that were going to give you the issues in the first place are still going to go out.
Yeah, they're going somewhere else and going to have more problems.
They're not even going to go somewhere else. They'll still... those are the people that are giving you issues and doing things illegally in the first place.
Yeah.
Who's to say that they're going to follow the legal closure orders,
right?
And not go there when you close stuff. Yeah. All you're doing is you're impacting the people that are doing things responsibly.
Right. Like the jerk that's cutting the gate at Barrett and keeps going wheeling.
Yes, him. Like that guy.
There's a gate and it's locked shut. There's a reason for that. Don't go over the gate. Don't go around the gate. Don't go, through the gate. Don't unlock the gate. Cut the lock with bolt cutters and go through the gate.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason that they do closures. People like that will shut the trails down.
Yes, they'll shut the trails down. And then another good kind of case in point, which I was really glad to see a land manager step up and say this. There was a big fight going on up in the Auburn recreational area down that goes under, that covers Mammoth Bar, underneath the Forest Hill Bridge.
The confluence
area. They were saying that the land managers wanted to add more camping opportunities, more camping areas in that recreation area. And the residents of Auburn are vehemently fighting it because they don't want more people showing up and coming out to that area and bringing more people to that area. And the land managers just stood up and said, we already have more people coming here than we can handle. If we don't put in campgrounds, then they're going to camp illegally in illegal places where there's not designated fire rings. And that's how fires like what burned and started underneath the Forest Hill Bridge. That's exactly what that fire was it was somebody camping illegally because they couldn't get a campsite.
Oh, wow.
So they were like, we already have tons of people coming here. If we shut off the area, like close the entire area down, like the residents want to happen, people are still going to come out there.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be people. People have a people problem. And the ones that are going out and camping illegally are the ones that are causing the problems. Mm-hmm. You're not going to fix anything by closing areas.
Sure.
Because typically enforcement does not go with the closures.
No.
So
I remember that area when I would go mountain biking there. Mm-hmm. I did with the Confluence Loop, which is now 100% different than when I rode it. Like back when I was riding it, it was just a single track little dirt trail. Now there's like wood jumps and all this stuff out there. Mm-hmm. And I would be one of 8-10 cars parked down there.
Yeah.
And now there's
100, 150 cars.
Yeah. Nuts.
Yeah. It's crazy. So, people are people. Closure's not an option. Let's find ways to solidify vehicular recreation into management plans.
They need to put
be responsible.
They need to put a lifeguard down there.
They do. Dude, did you have you driven down there since the floodwaters came?
No.
Oh my God, it's impressive. There's so much water down there. Like, there's just two, it's usually two rivers. It's just one massive thing now.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it almost to the bottom of both of those bridges.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the water was so freaking high. And all that water's flowing right into Folsom and making it grow.
Yeah. Oh man, good stuff.
So that's North and Middle Fork.
Mm-hmm. Yep. North and Middle Fork of the American rivers.
Yep.
So cool, man. Good talk. I hope this spurs up some discussion out there with everybody else. If you did not like this show or what we're talking about, sorry.
Yeah. It needs to be said.
Yeah. It needs to be said.
People need to talk about these things.
Yeah.
It needs to be brought up.
Even if the discussion comes up and it comes to the conclusion of, no, fuck it, we're just going to go and tear stuff up anyways. That's what we want to do. Like, if that's the conclusion that you keep coming to after talking about this over and over, fine. At least you brought it up and attempted the discussion. That's all that I kind of care about. I don't want to say all I care about, but that's the first step, right?
I guess so.
Anyways, cool, man. Do you have any final words of wisdom for everybody out there?
We should all become hikers.
You're fired. That, my friends, keep crawling.
All right. Well, I got one for you.
Okay.
Did you hear about the joke about the roof?
No. Was it on fire?
No, but it might be over your head.
Probably. I don't get a lot of jokes that you tell sometimes. Would tell it to me anyways.
Nice.